A selfie with the owl.
We just found an owl. Mimi, how you feel about finding an owl? Mimi.
What? I'm so excited. I got tears in my eyes.
Are you having fun?
He's the largest of his kind. He's very, very impressive.
Having fun?
You should definitely check him out today.
Mom, you having
we
fun?
also have all of our crocodiles down in Crop Cove.
Mom.
You can go check out. We have a couple species of
you having fun?
And then we also have our false gharials. We have one false gharial in that middle exhibit. He is the second largest crocodilian in the park today. He's about 17 feet long and he weighs about 1,600 pounds.
You having fun?
His name is Tommy. He has a bit of a crooked snout, so he's pretty hard to miss, but he is also very impressive. You should also check him out if you have not seen him yet. And then the last thing I want to mention, I get asked all the time if I don't mention it during the shows, so what's going to be the difference between an alligator and a crocodile? So once again, these are American alligators. They have nice, big, wide, U-shaped snouts, which are really good for catching food on land, whereas American crocodiles have much more slender V-shaped snouts, which are really good for moving through the water and catching fish and other aquatic prey. Another difference is going to be their teeth. American alligators, like these guys, all have a bit of an overbite, so you can really only see the teeth from the top jaw sticking up over that bottom lip, whereas American crocodiles, their jaws are about the same width. You can usually see all their teeth intertwined when their mouths are closed. Now I am getting down to my last few pieces of food. I do want to mention there will be another feeding show in about 2 hours right here in the very same spot. But unfortunately, we're not doing any of our handling shows today. But I do want to get nice and quiet now. I want to try to see if I can get a few more big jumps from these big guys over here, and hopefully a big pop or two as well. Some lazy jumps from these guys. They're getting tired of jumping. Come on, big guy. Oh, sorry. Got 2 more pieces of food. Come on. So when they bite down really hard, they make that popping noise. It's all the air getting pushed out their mouths instantaneously. So the larger the alligator, the louder that popping sound is going to be. Oh, you guys are messing me up. One last piece. What about you, big guy? Hey. There we go. Come on. You hungry? Come on. Are you over it? Here we go. One big jump. Ready? Woo! That was a good jump and a good pop. All right, so if you guys have any questions for me, I'll be right outside those tortoise exhibits. I get paid by the hour, so please take up as much of my time as you possibly can. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day here at
You get paid by the hour.
Thank you guys so much. I have to go ahead and ask that no kids be placed on shoulders as well. If I'm looking around, nobody's breaking any of those rules, so I'm going to go ahead and get started feeding. Now these animals I'm feeding today are American alligators. They're one of only 2 types of alligators in the entire world. There's American alligators like these guys, and then also Chinese alligators. We are very lucky to have both kinds of alligators here at the park today. We've got about 700 to 800 of these American alligators. And we're actually very lucky to have about a dozen or so of those Chinese gators as well. So the reason I say that we're so lucky to have those Chinese gators is actually because there's only about 200 Chinese gators left out in the wild. So they are very badly endangered. And like I said, they are in their own little exhibit up front next to the main entrance. If you have not seen them yet today, I definitely recommend you go and check them out. There's a couple differences between American alligators and Chinese alligators. American alligators do get quite a bit larger. Females get to about 10 feet long, and then the males can get to about 15 feet long, whereas those Chinese gators usually average out at about 5 feet long each. And then the other difference is obviously going to be where they're found. These American alligators, you can find them anywhere between Texas and North Carolina along that coastline in freshwater environments, whereas those Chinese gators can only be found in a single river in China. So like I said, those are only a few differences. Other than that, they're pretty similar. They do look a little bit different as well. But you're probably wondering, what am I feeding these animals today? I'm feeding them raw chicken. So it's just store-bought chicken like you can buy at your local grocery store. Only difference is we do leave it out for a day or two. It starts to get a little bit smelly, a little bit stinky. That's actually the way that these guys like it. When it's nice and smelly like this, they can actually smell this chicken coming from about half a mile away, which makes it extremely easy for them to find food out in the wild. They're going to be more than happy to eat something like this that's already dead and decaying, rather than go out and waste a bunch of energy hunting down fresh food. They also have extremely strong stomach acid. They're going to be able to completely digest all the pieces of bone in this chicken, as well as whatever gross bacteria might be on it, like salmonella, that might make us sick as humans. Really isn't going to have an effect on these guys whatsoever. I'm also going to be feeding them these little dark pellets. We call these crock chow here at Alligator Adventure. It's pretty much just a miniaturized version of that chicken. It's super healthy for them, has a lot of protein, a lot of nutrients. It just doesn't taste quite as good. So what I'll do is I'll mix it in with that chicken. It gets covered in the blood and the juice, and then like that I'll kind of trick them into eating it. So they probably do think it is chicken, and like I said, it's very, very healthy for them, so it's good for them to eat, especially these big guys. It'll help us keep them hungry throughout the entire show, so they're going to continue jumping up over and over and over. If I feed them only chicken, these big guys will eventually get full. One of the questions I also get asked all the time is how do you feed so many alligators? So I know that this bucket I have is pretty small. It's probably only about 5 pounds of food, to be honest with you. But honestly, these alligators really don't need to eat that much. Even these fully grown ones underneath me that weigh up to about 1,000 pounds only need to eat about 50 to 60 pounds of food every single year to survive. So only a fraction of their own body weight. They're a lot more efficient at digesting their food than we are. We as mammals, we have to continue eating over and over and over to keep our body temperature at that same constant temperature. These guys are cold-blooded animals, so they just rely on the outside temperature to regulate their heat. They really don't need that much food in order to kind of maintain the rest of their bodily functions. So like I said, they really don't eat that much. They actually go through a state called brumation throughout the months of November to April where they don't need to eat at all. Their heart rate goes down, their body temperature goes down, and actually, if we feed them during that time, it's possible that that food will make them sick, and if you feed them way too much and they can't digest it in time, it's possible that it could kill them as well. So we have to be extremely careful about when we feed these guys throughout the year. We're always making sure that it's a nice maybe 70 degrees every single day so that they're going to be able to properly digest their food. Now, you probably noticed these big guys underneath me, and some of the small ones too, have been jumping up out of the water for these pieces of food. This isn't something they do all too much out in the wild. This is something they've learned here at the park. They know that if they jump for a piece of food, they're a lot more likely to receive a piece of food. So you'll see all the really big guys that eat the most are going to be jumping over and over and over to try to get my attention and get me to throw a piece of food to them. This happens sometimes in the wild, and I've seen them do it at the park as well. Sometimes they will jump up out of the water and grab a bird as it flies overhead. It's pretty rare, but I have seen it happen. But usually what these guys are going to do is what the rest of them are doing. They're going to sit by an edge of a pool of water, wait for something to come by, usually with their mouths open, and then they'll rush forward to grab that food with their immensely powerful jaws. Their jaws are the second strongest muscle in their body. They have an immense bite force, one of the strongest bite forces in the animal kingdom. A fully grown alligator like these big guys right underneath me probably have a bite force of over 2,000 pounds per square inch. To put that into perspective, we as humans, we grip with about 20 pounds per square inch, and we bite down with about 100 pounds per square inch. So they bite down about 20 times harder than we ever could, and it's enough bite force to actually break any single bone in your entire body. So they are immensely powerful. And usually when they bite down on something that's still living, it is going to end whatever animal that is life. Now, I do also want to mention the strongest muscle in their body is actually going to be their tail. So that tail is very large. It's actually about half the length of their entire body. They'll use it mostly for propelling themselves through the water. They can swim about 20 miles per hour, and they can also use it to push themselves off the bottom of that pool of water and get that airtime as well. They can actually jump out of that water about 3/4 of their own body length. Now, these very large ones underneath me aren't going to be jumping nearly that high, first of all, because they're not that hungry. I've been feeding them over and over. We do 5 feeding shows. Oh, sorry, buddy. We do 5 feeding shows every single day, so they're getting used to being fed. They're not really that hungry. But also because they do weigh so very much, it's very hard for them to get all that mass up and out of the water. So if I can get the smaller ones to jump, you'll see the smaller guys like this guy over here will actually be able to jump a whole lot higher compared to his larger brothers. So like I said, about 3/4 of his own body length. So if he's about 10 feet long, he can probably jump about 7.5 feet up and out of that water. Now, I do want to mention a couple more crocodilians throughout the park today. I want to mention Utan. Utan is in that big exhibit right behind you guys.
You see it, David?
Mm-hmm. You made me get off somehow.
They're all ready.
Don't fall in.
Alright, can you guys hear my microphone okay?
Yeah.
Alright, well, my name is Josh. I'm one of the zookeepers here at Alligator Adventure.
Whoa.
I'm going to give you guys a chance to watch these, hopefully, very hungry alligators eat. So before I get started, I do want to go over a couple rules just to keep you guys safe and keep the animals nice and calm. These are park-wide rules as well as during the show, so if you can follow these through your entire stay here at Alligator Adventure, that'd be greatly appreciated. First rule is going to be no one sitting or standing on these little wooden ledges. Whenever you see these, that means there's big hungry gators on the other side. So don't anybody reaching too far past those ledges or falling.
This is David from Just a Boy and His Geese, and we're at the alligator adventure.
They're starting to move over that way closer.
And
They got 4 minutes.
they're gonna have a feeding exhibit.
A feeding exhibit?
I don't know what's it
It's
called.
called a feeding exhibit.
That's what I said.
Why don't you turn around so they can see what's behind you?
We got an alligator over here. Looks like they're smiling, ain't it?
Yeah. Look at, show them this one. And that humongous one.
See there, you can only see the tail.
Show them that one.
See, look over there. Ooh.
Can those chew your arm off? Come on, little buddy.
I don't think it's little anymore.
Come on, little buddy. Come on, big buddy. Look at this one. Come on, buddy. Mommy, can the little ones chew your arm off? Come on, buddy.
They all can.
Dang.
They grab your arm and twist it. And rip it.
What do you know?
Discovery Channel.
Ew. I just put my hand in blood poop. I want to work here. I wonder if they die. Look at this humongous one. Jerry! But that one's still bigger. Where do you start feeding that?